You've probably heard people say, when you marry someone, you marry their family. It sounds poetic, doesn't it? Like a union of love and mutual respect. But let me tell you, whoever came up with that saying clearly never met Mama Kamau. For me, marrying into Kamau's family wasn't a union. It was a declaration of war, one I never signed up for. The first time I saw her, I should have known. The warning signs were all there, but love makes fools of us all, doesn't it? It was the day I stepped into Kamau's homestead as his bride, my heart bursting with joy and nerves. The compound was buzzing with activity, neighbors milling about, chickens darting between legs, children giggling as they peeked from behind doorways. The air smelled of fresh chapati and goat stew, and the women ululated loudly, their voices piercing through the air like arrows. But then, there she was. Mama Kamau stood at the center of the compound like a queen surveying her territory. Her arms crossed over her chest, her lips pressed into a tight line. She didn't ululate, she didn't smile. Her eyes scanned me up and down like I was a goat brought to market. "So, this is the one?" she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The murmurs started immediately, women exchanging knowing looks, men shaking their heads. My cheeks burned, but Kamau, my husband, ignored it. He squeezed my hand briefly and led me into the house. "You'll get used to her," he whispered as we walked. But how do you get used to a storm? That first night, I learned what life under Mama Kamau would be like. Kamau and I were settling into the main house, unpacking my kiondos, when her voice sliced through the air like a machete. "Hey, Mercy," she barked. "Who told you you'd sleep here? That room is for my son. You'll stay in the storehouse." I froze, thinking it was some kind of cruel joke. But when I turned to Kamau, he avoided my gaze. "It's just for a while," he mumbled. The storehouse was a small, dark structure at the edge of the compound, filled with sacks of maize, rusty tools, and a strong smell of damp earth. That night, I lay on a thin mat, listening to rats scurry in the corners and fighting tears. The storehouse wasn't just a physical space, it was a statement. I was unwanted. From that day, Mama Kamau made it her mission to remind me I was an outsider. Each morning before the sun rose, she'd pound on the storehouse door. "Hey, Mercy, are you waiting for me to fetch water for you? Lazy girls like you shame our family." By the time the rooster crowed, I had already fetched water from the river, swept the compound, and prepared tea. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. "Hey, this tea tastes like dirty water," she'd say, dumping it on the ground. "Kamau might as well drink poison." Her cruelty didn't stop there. She turned even the simplest tasks into battles. If the vegetables weren't cut to her liking, she'd throw them out. If the clothes weren't hung just right, she'd tear them down. And Kamau, my husband, my supposed protector, he sat silently through it all, as if he didn't see what was happening. Mama Kamau didn't just belittle me in private, she made a sport of it in public. One afternoon, while we were at the river washing clothes, she called out to the other women, her voice carrying over the water. "Hey, Mercy, why don't you tell us when you plan to give Kamau children? Or are you waiting for the hens to hatch first?" The women burst into laughter, their voices ringing in my ears. My hands froze in the soapy water, my cheeks burning. I wanted to respond, to defend myself, but the words wouldn't come. Later that evening, I confronted Kamau. "Your mother disrespects me," I said, my voice trembling. "She humiliates me in front of everyone. Why won't you say anything?" He sighed, avoiding my eyes. "That's just how she is. Don't take it personally." Don't take it personally? How could I not? It wasn't just the insults. It was the constant gossip, the whispers behind my back. One day, as I was hanging clothes to dry, I overheard Mama Kamau talking to a neighbor. "Kamau deserves better," she said. "This one is lazy, useless. I've already found someone for him, someone who can give him a proper home." My hands shook so badly I dropped the shirt I was holding. That night, I waited until Kamau came home and confronted him. "Is it true? Your mother wants you to replace me?" He didn't deny it. He didn't even look at me. "Mercy, Mama just talks. Don't take her seriously," he said. But his silence spoke louder than his words. The final blow came during a family gathering. Mama Kamau had invited the entire extended clan, and I was tasked with cooking for over 30 people. I worked tirelessly, my hands blistered, my back aching. When the food was served, Mama Kamau stood up and announced, "Today, we'll see if Mercy is worth keeping as a wife." The room fell silent. My heart pounded as they tasted the food. This meat is too salty," she declared, spitting it out theatrically. "And the rice? It's as dry as her personality." Laughter erupted. I stood there, frozen, my hands clenched into fists. But I didn't cry. Not in front of them. I swallowed my pride, my pain, and carried on. That night, as I lay in the storehouse, I made a decision. I wouldn't let her destroy me. If I stayed silent, I'd lose myself. The next morning, I woke before the sun, determined to reclaim my dignity. I worked harder than ever, not for Mama Kamau, but for myself. I perfected my cooking, learned every household task until even she couldn't find fault. But I didn't stop there. I started speaking up. One evening, when she mocked my ugali, I looked her in the eye and said, "If you don't like it, you can cook it yourself." The room went silent. For the first time, she seemed stunned. Kamau stared at me, his mouth agape. The real turning point came during another family gathering. Mama Kamau tried her usual tactic of embarrassing me. Mercy, when will you give us children? Or is Kamau supposed to grow old waiting?" I took a deep breath, my hands shaking, and said, "Maybe you should ask Kamau instead of blaming me. Or are you afraid of the answer?" Gasps filled the room. Mama Kamau's face turned red, but she said nothing. Kamau, to my surprise, finally spoke up. "She's right, Mama. Enough is enough." It wasn't an overnight change, but things improved. Kamau started standing up for me, and Mama Kamau, though still sharp-tongued, grew quieter. Slowly, our home became just that, a home, not a battlefield. Looking back, I realized that respect isn't given, it's earned. And sometimes you have to fight for it, even when it feels impossible. If there's one thing my story has taught me, it's that self-respect and courage are everything. I learned the hard way that sometimes people will treat you unfairly, trying to break your spirit. But I also learned that staying silent only makes things worse. Standing up for myself, even when my voice shook, changed everything. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but I discovered that I'm stronger than I thought. At the end of the day, your worth isn't about how others see you. It's about how you see yourself and the courage you have to fight for what you deserve. So, to anyone going through a struggle like mine, remember this: your worth isn't determined by others. It's something you claim for yourself. Thanks for watching this video up to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Cheers and have a good one.